Where are you? There you are.
Then I can.
Yeah, there you are.
That's
you can
good.
Come in.
That's a good. Because I really want to talk to you about one thing. Because when I look at the world right now, there is this, like, we want to find the ignition for sex all the time. It's in the magazines. It's everywhere. It's like we're so afraid of losing that horniness and all that thing. And at the same time, there is this longing to feel deeper. I see it everywhere. And of course, I can't say that it's all a reflection of me, but that's when I look at the world, I see that. And at the same time, I see all these ideas that the monogamous relationship, it doesn't work. Everybody can see it doesn't work. People are going from each other. They have sex with other partners without saying. They lie to each other. There's a lot of people that are singles and all that. But I feel, and in that, they talk about polyamory and all this. But I have a feeling that there is something much deeper in the relation, and it opens right now for us as human beings. There's a deeper understanding. There's a deeper possibility in our intimacy.
Yeah, much of what you just said, I would add more to that, because that was your statement.
Exactly.
I would have put that slightly different.
Yes. Please do.
Because I wouldn't say that monogamous relationships don't work. I would say what doesn't work is not being aligned with your heart in any relationship. That leaves you totally open for your heart to move, where you relate from and to what do you relate from your heart. So your heart chooses how you move in this life, and not you as the belief that you're a separate entity, as a self, as an ego identity. Yeah? So then, to me, what one is a profundity, and that everyone has, regardless of how their self has been constructed, because we construct ourselves, that behind everyone is deeper meaning. And to connect with that deeper meaning, one will have to awaken from the belief that you're a separate sense of self. And that happens mysteriously somehow. Don't ask me how that happens. It's just like when one is ripe, something opens in you that you know more than your experience and more than your sexual experience.
Explain ripe.
Ripe means, for no particular reason, your beingness has touched you deeper than your self-experience, and you've known the touch or the calling of your being, and suddenly in an instant there's more meaning in a single moment that does not get reflected by how you live. Suddenly you're knowing more than your experience. And often, because you're asking questions around sexuality, often when people are endeavouring to discover God, because I would suggest that anybody that's having sex, anybody that wants to use their sexuality or explore sexuality, their deepest calling is to discover what sexuality is, where does it come from, and what is the meaning behind it. Do you follow that? But obviously, when we first move towards sexuality, and this that will depend on the individual, because you can be pretty innocent in the awakening to sexuality when you're a youngster, and be sweetly innocent as you move towards another, and explore sexuality not from want and need, but the exploration of some communion and connection that you know you must go towards. It's like somewhere in you, in that connection with another, you're developing an awakening and a power in which the universe moves. You're awakening to a deeper meaning of what you are, and a deeper power of movement that is more than you as a separate sense of self, and somewhere you know that's contained in the movement of sexuality. Whether you discover that is not a movement of sexuality moved only by your separate sense of self, your ego, but a movement that's moved by your heart, that will be your discovery. Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you move towards sexuality from want and need, sex becomes a power that distorts reality, and you'll believe as someone that needs something from another.
Yes.
And so then you'll get you'll experience sex for a me that doesn't actually exist. And I believe everyone goes through that until they either awaken from that or not. And if they're serious in discovering the love within themselves and the love within another, then they awaken from the need to have sex, but the calling to discover true sexuality and the making of love. Because then you might discover that true sexuality is the way in which you communicate and commune with the universe with your body, and not just with your spirit or your being. That this is the union of your being in your heart with your body, and it's actually how you came into existence. The movement of your being and the movement of energy joined, making the body. It's a love-making process that's eternal and actually births stars. So there's a deeper meaning behind sexuality, and a power that does not belong to a particular someone. But if you move into it as a sexual someone, then that power becomes a tremendous distorted power that can move and manipulate your life and self. And if you awaken to what your sexuality really belongs to as a heart, you begin to be able to commune the mystery of what you are into the mystery of what another is. And that opens up to a sublime movement of the meaning of why you would ever make love, be sexually alive from the heart with another. You're exploring the meaning behind what calls you to unite your bodies through your heart, through your mind, through your experience. There's actually something being made. You become a porthole for what's beyond, and the making of love brings it here, and you begin to know it, and it transforms your body, your mind, your sexuality, your life.
But that's very painful, I find.
Painful in that it exposes the use of self as a particular perceived someone who needs and wants something. The pain is only that empties out true making of love, empties out the lower levels of the nervous system that were being used to have something for oneself.
Yes. Do you feel that pain sometimes?
I experience it in the people.
Yeah.
I experience it
but
in the people.
But not in yourself.
I don't have it in myself.
No.
But I experience it in the people because I got so open that I experience where everyone is moving and how they're moving.
Yes. Because I find I have talked to my girlfriend, and that's the first time it happened in my life that I have a partner, and we looked into each other's eyes and say to each other, I want to unpack everything that's inside you, and I do the same. And that journey of vulnerability and honesty, I think it changes everything. I even have long periods when I think that the sexuality is so noisy that I can't even stand it. I hate it because this whole story about sexuality that is in me,
but you have to go through that.
Yeah.
That's the level of self-development, that if you're attracted or you're called to another through union, intimate union, as being and as having bodies, then your bodies, your nervous system, will empty out how you used to move, how you used to pattern your sexuality. Because your sexuality has a direct effect on how you're putting your life together. How you think, how you feel, what you do, why you do it, who for, what for. And so sexuality is directly aligned with the movement of life in the universe. And therefore it's directly aligned with the movement of life is you. Yes. And so if your life belongs to a deeper meaning that you are endeavouring to point towards, a deeper meaning begins to open up. And you get to know the levels of your old self that you didn't know that. There need to be forgiveness there and knowledge there, because that level will come up. That's the pain that you're speaking of. But if you judge that level, you're still misinterpreting what this life is really about. Because you have to wake up from those lower levels of sexuality. And your sexuality, in other words, your body, sexuality is the movement of the entirety of your life, not just your genital area.
No.
Then sexuality begins to be very clear how you know and feel the universe through a deeper enlightenment of heartfulness.
Yes.
You're awakening. So then everything starts to come towards you in that how you make love, for the making of love and the understanding of what you are, who the other is, and you're deepening into each other to know each other deeply. You come upon realms of pure being and pure love that wasn't possible while you were having sex.
Yes.
Because your being won't open to having sex. The mystery won't open to having sex. Just pain and frustration will open with that. And so there will be an emptying of that as you reorientate your sexuality, your life, and your sexuality as intimacy with another, sexual intimacy with another. As it reorientates from moving from knowing in the heart, then there will be a self-emptying and also a self-enlightenment. You'll begin to know the presence of love. It won't be so noisy.
No.
It'll be stiller, deeper,
yeah.
More depth, but also a deeper sense of passion for life.
I totally understand what you're saying. And I feel sometimes I'm at that moment where I feel that love and God totally lives through me and my movements and my words, and then I go to a new point when it's totally dark again.
I understand that.
Yeah.
That's because when you're moving in deeper levels of what you are, and that opens up in your sexuality, you're moving in deeper levels of what is pure sexuality, then that gives you the possibility of self-transformation. Then that awakening in that level of your being, that level of your heart, that level of your sexuality dives down to the shadow spots. And there it looks like you've gone back to the same old thing. But what's really happening is you've moved into shadowy levels of sexuality that you now have knowledge about a higher realm of purity. And there you'll sit and you'll speak of those levels to those old levels. You'll bring enlightenment to those levels. You'll move those levels differently. And those levels begin to open and respond to you. Now they're not so shadowy. They begin to open, display how you put that together. And a great deal happens as you, through a higher communion of meaning in your life and in your sexuality, that level's raised. And often what will come about from that, if your love of God or realization is through an other, then you'll be able to commune that and know that through a purer relatedness with another. The mystery of that unfolds. A lot takes place.
Oh yeah. I have to tell you that from the first time many years ago that I heard you speak, you've been a big inspiration for me. It's like the way it's not only your words, but the way you put your words, it's like I know them inside of me. So I got this very, very familiar feeling.
That's because I don't separate what you are from what I am. That's pure sexuality. I'm actually knowing you in pure sexuality from my being. So then we become one body, one love, one knowing, and one experiencer, and one experience. Therefore I can share my deepening experience of being and of the sexuality, the pure sexuality opening up in my being. I can transmit that to you because I'm able to be completely open to you.
Yeah.
That's pure sexuality. So then it's not a mental thing.
No.
It's embodied in the cells and you can know it.
And you know that thing you're speaking about, that's wonderful, because sometimes with the inspiration of this, I've been able to do the same. I have to ask you something, because now I have put in my life, what I'm doing is I'm traveling around in Denmark and speaking about love, because that's the only thing I want, and it's the only thing that gives meaning to me. And now I started to do it together with my girlfriend, and about this conscious relationship and being honest. Do you have any advice? Because I think that there's so many couples out there that really longing for this deepening in each other. Do you have any advice for this work?
Well, first off, higher sexuality or pure sexuality coupled with your love for another must include your life in all things. You can't separate the bedroom, as it were, from what you do, how you do, and why you do it. From walking down the street, from buying your groceries, to meeting people,
Yes.
wherever they are. You're learning to open your body and open your heart to all of life and respond to all of life. You're meeting it fully in the body, fully within the heart, regardless of how the self reacts. In that manner then, you'll find that your love making is much more deeper and sincere, and that you'll be able to meet any rising pattern in each other, not as a problem, but from a discovery of what that pattern represents as it comes home to your deeper loving and your deeper communion with each other. So it's really believing that your love together, your sexuality together, is more than just having sex.
Yeah.
It's discovering the mystical of being love. Two beings loving, two beings discovering, two beings moving as one body, as it were. The mystery of each other. Then you'll discover the mystery of life. As that really happens, it frees you up from this belief that your sexuality is just something in the bedroom. Your sexuality is what moves all of life and how you experience life. So as you free up your sexuality from just being in the bedroom, you experience the abundance of a wonderful, beautiful life. And you're knowing it everywhere. And also through that, compassion also develops.
Yeah.
Somehow it just opens that you have compassion for how life moves and how it moves in different ways for many beings.
Yeah.
So my advice is not advice, it's an arrow of wisdom. Always be true to the level of your heart with yourself and with each other. Don't move away from what your heart knows, regardless of how it feels in yourself or how the other feels. Stay with the knowing in your heart. Explore what you really do know in your heart and what the other knows in their heart. That will change your sexuality.
So what would you say to a couple that they have a feeling about this, but they are not at all defining that path yet for themselves? And where should they start? Normal, everyday people. Where could they start this journey?
Where could they start it?
Where can they start it? I mean...
Well, it's already started.
I know it started, but...
And the deeper discovery of what actually is already in movement is to be honest and true and not be familiar with themselves or each other. So that you must look at each other with fresh new eyes, fresh open heart, with a fresh open body, even though yourself goes, I can't do that. You need to do that because when you first met, you weren't familiar. You were open to the exploration of your calling, of your union together, and you were in the enjoyment of that discovery. But by and by, you got familiar, you began to use yourself to have sexual experience or to have the other for yourself, and not for the joy of discovering the mystery of each other. So you have to return to the mystery.
And I love you say that because right now there's so much talk about Tantra in Denmark, in all the Western culture. And I think many times when I hear what it's about, this is just my feeling, it's a lot of it is just a bunch of rubbish.
Yes.
Excuse me.
That's truth. It is a bunch of rubbish. Because Tantra is so much more than having sex.
Yeah.
Tantra is the realization that the entire movement of the universe is the pure sexual movement of light, moved by the pure beingness of what consciousness is. So there's nothing but Tantra here. As the part about the genital area is just one part of what this is really about. You and I are being loved right now. You and I are in the enjoyment of the communion of our hearts with our body. So that's a radiance of pure sexuality. So we're knowing love together. And it fills the space of this room. Yes. And we're enjoying that together with our bodies, in our hearts, in our being.
So why is it when the genitals for a man and a woman, when they're connected to each other, why is there in that sensation that extra feeling? Which I myself think sometimes that we as Western people don't see in the holy light as it should be.
Yeah, well that's because the genitals, or what might be termed the root chakra, are profundities of being, profundities of consciousness. They're just not sexual instruments. They're profound consciousnesses of a depth of being, right at the very point in which the universe first came into being. So the phallus and the vagina are actually profound intelligences. That's why when you bring the bodies together and man even comes anywhere near the vagina, then it's possible that the phallus radiates the consciousness of what's deeper than the man, of what's more than just his body, more than just his sexual appetite, but more of what he is in the deep. And then there's a response to that in the vagina that's more than just the woman and her sexual appetites or her need of a relationship. And the response there is an openness. And somehow the phallus finds itself within the vagina. And the vagina finds itself holding and being one with the phallus. And somehow right there, that union is already taking place in the deep. It's just that the phallus and the vagina have taken a shape of the powers inherent in the phallus and the vagina. In Hinduism, or in India, you'll find the yoni and the lingam.
Yes.
What the yoni and lingam really are. They're not men and women. The phallus and the vagina, as we call them, aren't belonging to particular men and women. They're profundities of being, profundities of of a beingness of pure sexuality, which equals love, and the profundity of a beingness that equals light. And that's what they really are. It's just that they look like they're on particular men and women, but they actually come from the source itself. Yes. And we have this idea that what they are is for procreation, or even recreation. But what they are really is the fact that the masculine and feminine are already one. The masculine and feminine are profundities that spill out of the source, the I am, the pure self, and they activate what consciousness is and sexuality is in the making of the universe. And that's our calling to, as it were, discover that in our making of love. And it's a profound state to make real love. And one can discover that the penis is much more than just a genital area, or the vagina is much more than just a genital area, that they are actually profound levels of consciousness that when aligned with the heart have an innermost response and open up more than just bodies.
Is that why women feel that so much sorrow in their heart if a man starts to open them and then turns away?
Now you're into a much bigger conversation.
I'm sorry, yes, I leave you there.
But you're in a much bigger conversation, because that's a big conversation, because there's many levels to that. Because woman is called, if she's really called, on this level of deeper intimacy. So we're not talking about shallow sex, we're talking about a connection that a woman has when a man touches her innermost, and a connection that a man has when a woman touches his innermost. It's a connection beyond the bodies. And there's a knowing somehow that that connection that opened up in them is more than self. And they're drawn to know that. And on the lower levels of selfhood, then it seems that we want and need that. But that want and need that is a movement of the fact that we're already one. We have to discover that. So there's lots of plays where the self of woman and self of man has to be raised up to a higher intelligence of love's knowledge and love's intimacy, where we have to surrender those old levels of self and raise them up. We won't discover how to raise those levels up if we're not drawn to discover what love making is and how it moves a different kind of life that doesn't separate each other but unifies everything. It's a constant discovery. So then, yes, a woman's heart might break if man is able to reach her but then leaves her. It may break, and the same can happen with a man. That a woman might open to a man and he's in her, but he's opened by her, and she leaves, and he feels left. It happens for both man and woman. But there's something profoundly meaningful and intelligent at work there. It's just a question of whether you will not give up because of heartbreak, but discover what the heart is and why you would even be called to another, and become more selfless about it, but true to what your heart is. Then you discover the deeper mysteries of what this really is and why levels of yourself feel so disjointed. They have to be raised by your deeper meaning of what sexuality is.
Thank you. That's wonderful. I'll just on the end here say that I love that yesterday you said that when you're tired of sex, that's when lovemaking begins.
That's right, yeah.
I love that.
Yes, because then you discover just having sex doesn't fulfill your heart, your being. Therefore it doesn't really come into your pure body, which is your pure radiant sexuality. So you're left hungry for more. But when you're touched by a deeper level of meaning to make love, and let your life belong to that, then it awakens your body, it awakens your heart, and you're fulfilled by a level of being that matches how you make love, and union begins to open. Literally, your heart begins to realize itself, and you awaken into love and as love. And you see it shining through each other. It's a whole different thing.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was wonderful.